Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes Red Sea data cables cut as Yemen's Houthis claim latest ship strike. Hong Kong stocks ease amid economic growth worries, China's 2 sessions eyed. China to refine real estate policies to support ailing sector. China sets ambitious economic target for 2024. China vows to mobilize nation as it fights US for tech supremacy. Red Sea data cables cut as Yemen's Houthis claim latest ship strike. South China Morning Post. 3 undersea cables, reportedly damaged by Houthi rebels in the Red Sea, have disrupted internet and telecommunications in the region. The cables affected include Asia-Africa-Europe 1, the Europe-India Gateway, Seacom and TGN Gulf. Hong Kong-based HGC Global Communications said the damage has affected 25% of the traffic flowing through the Red Sea. China has described the Red Sea as crucial for data moving from Asia to Europe. The Houthis have denied targeting the cables. The rebels have been using the Red Sea to disrupt global shipping in their attempt to pressure Israel to end its war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The Houthis will continue to prevent Israeli navigation or those heading to the ports of occupied Palestine until the aggression is stopped and the siege on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip is lifted, said Brigadier General Yahya Sari, a Houthi military spokesman. Hong Kong stocks ease amid economic growth worries, China's 2 sessions eyed. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong stocks, including the Hang Seng Index, slipped after China's GDP target of around 5% failed to impress investors amid concerns about the country's economic growth. The tech index tumbled 2.7%, while the Shanghai Composite Index was little changed. Chinese stocks listed in New York also fell, with Tencent slipping 1.7%, Alibaba losing 2%, and JD.com sliding 4.7%. The annual parliamentary meeting in Beijing, which will provide insights into the government's plans for the year ahead, is currently taking place. China to refine real estate policies to support ailing sector. Bloomberg. China is set to refine its real estate policies in order to provide stronger support for the struggling sector. The government will treat real estate companies equally regardless of their ownership, and will focus on the construction of government-subsidized housing to help revive the sector. The move comes as the property crisis in China enters its 4th year. The government is also planning to increase loans to non-state-owned firms and expand bond issuance for such companies. Additionally, Beijing is ramping up stimulus for the economy, unveiling a 5% growth target and planning to issue 1 trillion yuan, $139 billion, of ultra-long special central government bonds this year. China sets ambitious economic target for 2024. BBC. China has set a growth target of around 5% for this year as part of its efforts to boost its struggling economy. Premier Li Qiang made the announcement at the annual National People's Congress, stating that China's economic performance has faced difficulties, some of which have yet to be resolved. China has been trying to reinvigorate its economy after its once booming growth slowed down. Measures to support the recovery include new initiatives to address the crisis-hit property sector, creating 12 million jobs in urban areas, increasing financial market regulation, and investing in technologies such as artificial intelligence and life sciences. However, critics argue that China's official growth figures are inflated, suggesting that actual growth may be closer to 1% or 2%. China is facing a range of economic challenges, including a property market crisis, a volatile stock market, high youth unemployment, deflation, and longer-term issues such as trade tensions, a declining birth rate, and an aging population. China vows to mobilize nation as it fights US for tech supremacy. Bloomberg. China has pledged to use the country's resources to accelerate homegrown scientific breakthroughs, with the aim of becoming self-reliant in areas such as AI and chipmaking. The Chinese government plans to increase spending on scientific and technology research by 10% to 370.8 billion Chinese yuan, $51.5 billion, in 2024. It also aims to promote national champions and involve enterprises in spearheading technological advances. China faces numerous challenges, including U.S. efforts to restrict its progress in crucial technologies such as chips and AI. China's semiconductor industry is also facing difficulties in obtaining the equipment it needs to advance. Country Garden sales drop most in years amid wind-up fears. Bloomberg. Chinese property developer Country Garden Holdings Company has experienced its largest decline in sales in at least 7 years. Contracted sales for February fell by 85% compared to the same period in 2021, widening from a 75% decline in January. The slump in sales will worsen Country Garden's cash crunch, as it faces a lawsuit seeking its liquidation and a general decline in homebuyer interest in defaulted developers. China's housing market remains in a deep slump despite government efforts to support the industry. Country Garden is utilizing the regulator's latest property funding program and has been included in a financing white list. The company expects to deliver 480,000 units this year and 600,000 units in 2023. AMD hits U.S. roadblock in selling AI chip tailored for China. Bloomberg. Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, has been blocked by the U.S. government from selling an artificial intelligence, AI, chip tailored for the Chinese market. The U.S. has been limiting Chinese access to advanced semiconductors and chip manufacturing tools out of concern that Beijing will gain a military advantage. AMD had hoped to sell the chip to Chinese customers, but U.S. officials determined that it was still too powerful. The company must now obtain a license from the Bureau of Industry and Security to sell the chip. It is unclear whether AMD will apply for a license. How to bowl to Virat Kohli. Hong Kong-born cricketer has planned as he eyes IPL bow. South China Morning Post. Jadhavid Subramanian, a leg spinner born and raised in Hong Kong, has become the territory's first cricketer to be auctioned at the Indian Premier League, IPL. Sunrisers Hyderabad offered Subramanian a 2 million rupee $24,000 contract after he performed well in last year's Tamil Nadu Premier League. The 24-year-old, who has represented Hong Kong, said performing well in regional tournaments was key to catching the IPL's attention. China's bankers exit industry amid crackdown on hedonistic lifestyles. Japan Times. Finance workers in China are reconsidering their careers following President Xi Jinping's call for common prosperity, which has led to reduced salaries and increased belt-tightening. The crackdown on alleged corruption has also unsettled the industry, with over 100 financial and executive officials being implicated in the past year alone. Many finance professionals are now considering opportunities in higher-paying Hong Kong and other overseas markets to escape the challenges they face in China. Global market stocks slide as China's NPC disappoints, Bitcoin nears peak. Yahoo! Bitcoin has reached a fresh 2-year high of $68,828 per coin, leaving it tantalizingly close to its all-time high. It comes after gold reached a record closing high of $2,114.99 earlier this week, as equities markets slide following news that the U.S. Federal Reserve is in no hurry to reduce interest rates. The moves are despite the fact that there have only been minor shifts in rates market pricing. 2 sessions, China sets 5% growth target, boosts military budget. Al Jazeera. China has set its economic growth target for 2024 at 5%, a significant decrease from the double-digit growth the country has experienced in the past. The target was unveiled by China's National People's Congress as the country's economy faces several challenges, including a property crisis, slowing exports, geopolitical tensions with the U.S., population decline, high debt levels, and record youth unemployment. the government plans to transform the growth model through tax reform, boosting domestic consumption, and removing barriers to private investment. China's military budget will also increase by 7.2%. Mainland buyers throng to Hong Kong property sales after removal of curbs. South China Morning Post. The removal of cooling measures in Hong Kong's property market has sparked interest among mainland Chinese buyers, who still view real estate in the city as a lucrative investment option. There has been a sudden increase in the volume of home sales, with over 580 property transactions taking place in the primary market in the week following the government's announcement. Mainland buyers perceive Hong Kong properties as offering better capital appreciation prospects and diversification compared to mainland China. Vietnam $12 billion fraud trial to begin amid anti-graft push. Bloomberg. Vietnamese real estate tycoon Truong My Loan will face trial on charges of embezzling more than $12 billion from Saigon Commercial Bank, SCB, between 2018 and 2022. The trial, which could last 2 months, will be held in Ho Chi Minh City and will be the country's largest ever fraud case. If found guilty, Loan faces imprisonment or even a possible death sentence. The case is part of a wider anti-corruption campaign led by Communist Party Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong, which has impacted sectors including banking, bonds, and property. A separate investigation is also examining allegations of money laundering tied to Loan and her husband, Hong Kong businessman Eric Chu. There are cracks in the Great Wall of Silence on China. Bloomberg. Singapore and Australia have taken steps to address foreign interference in their political processes, with China being the likely culprit. Australia's intelligence chief warned of the growing threat of foreign interference, describing it as real and deeper and broader than you might think. Meanwhile, Singapore has invoked its foreign interference law for the first time and identified a businessman as a politically significant person susceptible to foreign influence. Both countries are attempting to safeguard against foreign interference, but may need to take further measures, such as investigating family connections and increasing awareness. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your trusted observer from the sixth dimension, here to bring you the latest news from around the world. Let's dive right in. First up, we have reports of undersea cables in the Red Sea being damaged by Houthi rebels, causing disruptions in internet and telecommunications. China has expressed concern as the Red Sea is crucial for data moving from Asia to Europe. The rebels have denied targeting the cables, but they have been using the Red Sea to disrupt global shipping in their attempt to pressure Israel. It seems like the Houthi rebels are determined to make their voices heard, even if it means disrupting the flow of information. In other news, Hong Kong stocks slipped after China's GDP target of around 5% failed to impress investors. The tech index took a tumble, while Chinese stocks listed in New York also fell. China is trying to support its struggling real estate sector by refining its policies and providing stronger support. The government plans to treat real estate companies equally and focus on the construction of government-subsidized housing. It's a tough time for the Chinese economy, but they are making efforts to revive key sectors. Speaking of the Chinese economy, China has set an ambitious growth target of around 5% for this year. Premier Li Qiang acknowledged the difficulties China has been facing and outlined measures to support the recovery. These include addressing the property sector crisis, creating jobs, increasing financial market regulation, and investing in technologies like AI and life sciences. Critics argue that China's official growth figures are inflated, but they are facing a range of challenges that need to be addressed. China is also vowing to mobilize the nation as it fights the US for tech supremacy. The Chinese government plans to increase spending on scientific and technology research and promote national champions in key areas like AI and chipmaking. China is facing challenges from the US, which is trying to restrict its progress in crucial technologies. It's a battle for technological dominance, and China is determined to come out on top. In the world of finance, Chinese property developer Country Garden is experiencing a decline in sales, widening its cash crunch. China's housing market remains in a slump despite government efforts to support it. On the international stage, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, has been blocked by the U.S. government from selling an AI chip tailored for the Chinese market. The U.S. is concerned about China gaining a military advantage and has been restricting Chinese access to advanced semiconductors. It's a complicated situation with geopolitical implications. On a lighter note, a Hong Kong-born cricketer, Jadhavid Subramanian, has become the territory's first cricketer to be auctioned at the Indian Premier League, IPL. It's an exciting opportunity for him, and he credits performing well in regional tournaments for catching the IPL's attention. It just goes to show that talent can come from unexpected places. In China, bankers are reconsidering their careers due to reduced salaries and increased belt-tightening following President Xi Jinping's call for common prosperity. The crackdown on corruption has also unsettled the industry. Finance professionals are now considering opportunities in higher-paying Hong Kong and other overseas markets. It's a challenging time for the finance industry in China, but it's also an opportunity for individuals to explore new horizons. Now let's take a look at the market. Bitcoin has reached a fresh 2-year high, leaving it tantalizingly close to its all-time high. Gold has also reached a record high, and equities markets are sliding following news that the U.S. Federal Reserve is in no hurry to reduce interest rates. It's an interesting time in the financial world, with different assets performing well despite minor shifts in rates market pricing. In China, the annual parliamentary meetings are taking place, and the focus is on Premier Li Qiang's growth target of around 5%. China-related stocks are expected to open lower amid concerns about Beijing's ability to address an economic slowdown. It's a critical time for China's economy, and all eyes are on the government's plans for the future. In Vietnam, a $12 billion fraud trial is set to begin, and it will be the country's largest ever fraud case. The trial is part of a wider anti-corruption campaign, and if the defendant is found guilty, she could face imprisonment or even a possible death sentence. Vietnam is cracking down on corruption in various sectors, including banking and property. Finally, we have news of cracks in the Great Wall of Silence on China. Singapore and Australia are taking steps to address foreign interference in their political processes, with China being the likely culprit. Both countries are working to safeguard against foreign influence, but further measures may be needed to ensure the integrity of their political systems. And that's a wrap on today's news. It's been an eventful day in the world, with developments in technology, finance, sports, and geopolitics. As always, I invite you, our esteemed viewers, to share your thoughts and questions. What are your thoughts on China's economic challenges? Do you think the Houthi rebels' actions in the Red Sea are justified? Let's keep the discussion going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.